And I love that the very front end of this palette here, you can build a good neutral, like everyday look, and then you can zhuzh it up with some sparkling bits. I did that backwards. It's this side of the palette. Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Melissa. I hope you all had a great holiday and a happy new year. I took a little break from YouTube and kind of from social media because I really wanted to just relax and be with my family. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do a tag, and it's called If I Could Only Keep 10 Eyeshadow Palettes. I thought this would be a fun way to start off the new year. I'm going to start off by sharing who started this tag. Her name is Annette's Makeup Corner. She developed this tag and encouraged people to do it, and I think it has caught on a little bit. I want to give her credit because I created a tag at the very beginning of my YouTube career called the Perfect Palette Tag, and I didn't necessarily get a lot of shout out back to my original video. So I want to make sure that I do that for Annette. She does a lot of indie brands and really colorful looks, but go ahead and give her a check out and take a watch on her video because she's adorable. So the first person I saw who did this tag, and it came up on my feed, was Kat from Kitsch Snitch. She is also part of the Beauty News team. I'm going to include links to all those channels down below as well because she has some awesome content, and the Beauty News group is pretty great if you're like a beauty junkie and want to keep up with everything that's going on in the beauty world, like all the new releases. Both Kat and Annette talked about in the beginning of their video how hard this was for them to pick, and I didn't really find this very hard at all because I just went in and I picked really my favorites. Some of them are still currently available and some of them aren't, and I'm okay with that. I just wanted to pick the ones that, you know, I love them. They do a lot. They do it all for me. And those are the ones that I would definitely want to keep if I could only keep 10. So without further ado, let's just dive right in. So before we get started, I did use one of the palettes I'm going to talk about today for my eye look. And go ahead and, you know, if you can guess as I'm going through, leave a comment that you think this is the one, and at the end I'll reveal which one I used to get today's look. So let's, you know, chit chat a little bit. Probably the first palette I ever bought, like big palette, was the original Urban Decay Naked palette. I remember seeing that in a magazine as like, you know, this is the hot new thing, and I was like, I want that. That looks beautiful. Spoiler alert, it's not in this group, but it was one that kind of was like my gateway palette, if you will. Like, that's the one that started it all for me and my love for palettes. And probably the one I got after that, or pretty close after that, is this next one that I'm going to talk about, and it's from Tarte. It is the Aqualilies for Tarte, and this, this is such a gorgeous palette. The packaging is just beautiful, and I got this like during the summertime. The color story was just right on trend. I even had like a skirt that had this color. It was a big bold print and had a little coral in it, and I loved using this like aqua teal color as an accent, but the rest of it is all pretty neutral, and it was a great palette to travel with for that reason. And it was a full face palette, you know, with a beautiful blush and a bronzer and a highlighter. This really did it all. This really was such a great palette. Still is. I don't really use it much anymore, but I still hold on to it because it's beautiful. When I started pulling the palettes that I really liked, I didn't pay attention to anything other than these were the ones I liked, but there are a couple of brands that have definitely shown up more than others, and I'm just gonna continue going through the other Tarte palettes that I pulled. So the next Tarte palette is called the Tartelette palette, and it's this one that is in the purple packaging. It's It's going to be super shiny inside, so hopefully I can get this in a way that you can look at it. What I love about this palette, first of all, it's all matte, which is, at the time, was a pretty unique concept to have an all matte palette. But also, I love the way it's laid out because each row is like its own unique color story and its own unique color tone. So you start out up here with what is, really a good neutral color story. This middle one is a cool tone color story, and this bottom one is a little bit more of a warmer color story. Then as you move across, so you could easily just go, I want to go warm, I want to go cool, I want to be neutral, and just work your way across. The first three pans really make a complete look, and this last pan in each row really can be used as a liner shade. It can also be used to darken up the look and make it deep and dark, but I like that it's really very complete, and I just love it. I have one more from Tarte, and it's the Tartist Pro palette. It's a little bit bigger than the Tartist palette. I like it for a lot of the same reasons, that there's pretty much a color story in each row. This has the addition of some like duochromes and sparkly bits. So all the square pans are matte, the round pans are the duochromes, and you can just get so many good looks out of this palette. Again, the first three shades can make a complete look. The fourth shade is more of a liner shade. This is when you want to zhuzh it up and make it like for, going out. This is a great palette to travel with. Its profile is very slim and it's secure, but on the inside you have an infinite number of daytime looks that are all matte, and so many great ways that you can enhance your look for an evening if you have a special event while you're traveling. So love this palette. The next palette I'm going to talk about is from Urban Decay. It's the Naked Smoky palette, and it has this kind of beautiful smoky packaging. I really loved the packaging on this. It was a little bit more substantial than some of the cardboard packaging, and not as awkward as I thought the tin packaging was. I really love this palette. When it first came out, it got a lot of mixed reviews. Some people really had a lot to say about, like this purple shade. They didn't like it. I really love this palette. Here's why. It is a cool tone palette, which was probably the first time I got a palette and I went, oh, I really like cool tone shades. It was like an eye-opener for me. So I love that you can take the first couple shades here in the beginning of the palette to build a real basic look. They're matte shades, but you have, a mid-tone, you have a darker one, you have a brow bone highlight. I love that. And then at this end, you have some more neutrals that are shimmery that you can add to it and still get a great neutral look to use. And then in the middle is where the party's at. That's where you can, go smoky, or you can add a pop of color, or you can, go in that other direction. So I was sad when they discontinued this palette. This next palette is from Japanesque. It's called the Pixelated Color Palette. This I don't think is any longer available, and I actually feel like Japanesque has pulled back out of the color cosmetic range. I don't know why, because they made some really beautiful color cosmetics. So this is what I love about this palette. It really is like divided into two parts. You have this part, which is the basics. You have, a matte brow bone, and you have like a sparkly brow bone color, a great transitional brown, and a dark black for deepening. And then this side is where all the fun is at, and it is just all like shimmery, sparkly shades, but not like heavily glittered. And what I like here is that you have here, these three shades are really pretty neutral, and these three shades are a little bit more colorful. So you could build a look here and add one of these for a great neutral look for work. You know, particularly these grays and this bronzy color. Or if you wanted to go out, you could, you know, go with this green, which is gorgeous, or one of these purples. And my love for this palette, I've talked about it. If you've been with me for a long time, you know I've talked about this on and off quite a bit. I haven't recently because it's not available, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about what I love, and if I could only keep 10 from my collection. I'm going to talk about another palette that is no longer available, but it was something I rediscovered when I was going through my Lucky bags. And this one is from Bobbi Brown. It's called the Luxe Nudes. And, well, first of all, this packaging is just spectacular. It's got like a little crest. There, you can see it there, a raised like crest for Bobbi Brown with a big B in it. And it's a nice, hard, compact with a magnetic closure. And then inside is one of the nicest groups of neutrals I've ever used, bar none. I remember when I bought this, I didn't really use it. I set it aside, maybe I swatched it, but it wasn't one that I like went, yay! And now I look at it and I go, yay, I love this. I reach for this all the time. It's stunning. And it's just, again, it's a cool tone palette. These shades are all cool tone, which work great for my coloring, so that's one of the reasons I love them. But you have a nice range from some lighter shades to some darker shades, a mixture of mattes, a mixture of some, you know, sparkly shades, so you can go with a little bit of sparkle. Anything I do with this is always work appropriate, but I can also go a little smoky with this. So this is one, like if I'm in a rush in the morning, I'm like, I'm grabbing this because I know I can get a great look out of this and it'll work with whatever I put on. Because some mornings are like that. I think that's it for the palettes that are older, discontinued. Some of these are still available. I'm going to include links to anything that is still available in the description box down below in case this is something you're interested in. And if you use those links, those do help support my channel at no additional cost to you. I get a very small commission from that if you click on that link and make an order. So thank you in advance if you do that. Since we're talking about cool tone palettes, and there are quite a few cool tone palettes in this collection, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the Viseart 07 Cool Mattes. Now this was their original Cool Matte palette, and it's the one that looks like this. I think you can still find this on the Viseart website, but Sephora isn't carrying it. They only carry the newer Cool Matte, which I don't like as much. For some reason, I like the shades in this a lot better. I feel like there's a little bit more variety, and I like this pop of color. I like this pop of color. There's a great range here. This is a beautiful little palette that'll last me for the rest of my life, I'm sure. It's awesome, and I'm glad that I have it. I remember looking at this so many times, the cost kind of put me off of it, and then finally I said to myself one day during like the Sephora sale, like, what are you waiting for? You constantly look at this, just go ahead and buy it. So I did, and I haven't looked back. Next up is from Anastasia Beverly Hills. It is the Sultry palette. I did a pretty extensive video on this, and I'll include a link on it because I love this palette. I think this is like one of the best palettes from Anastasia Beverly Hills. I think it really is phenomenal and so well thought out and so wearable. There's just so many things that I love about this. I do remember when I picked this palette up thinking, oh, that's a toss away shade. I'm never going to use that coral color. But as I was learning to use this palette and playing with it, that color, I'm convinced, is brilliant. It easily like brightens up any look if you use it in your transition area. I love it blended with this taupey, well, it's called slate below. It makes such a beautiful and different color, so sometimes I mix those together. I love all these glitters here because you can make yourself pretty fancy. I like being fancy sometimes. There's a nice range from lighter to darker, so you have that depth. I like to open up a palette and have everything I need. Something I can put under the brow bone, something I can use as a liner, and not have to go into another palette or a single and pull that, you know, dark shade out or that light shade out that I need. This is my preference, a well thought out, a well balanced palette. This would be another great palette to travel with because you can get all kinds of fancy looks, all kinds of daytime looks. I love this palette so much. So the last two are from Marc Jacobs. This is one of my favorite formulas of eyeshadow palettes, and quite honestly, this packaging is brilliant. I just think it's so beautiful, so sleek. Whoever was their package designer, they did such a great job. The whole line is beautiful. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Editorial. This is relatively new to my collection, and it is a stunner. I love this, you know, green shade. It has a nice little like silvery taupey shade. This gold in here is a little yellow for my skin tone, but used in a softer way, I think this will work pretty well for me. And then this side you have your, you know, your under the brow bone, you have a nice crease shade. This is a good liner shade. Like, this is well thought out as well, and I love the color story. It screams fall to me, mostly because of these two shades. I remember I did a video, I was wearing, I was getting ready and I was going out to dinner with some friends for our anniversary, and I had on this maxi dress that had a lot of green in it. I wore that palette. We went out to dinner. She's a fellow makeup lover, and she's like, "Oh, your eyeshadow looks so beautiful." And I said, "Oh, I'm wearing Marc Jacobs Editorial." And she went, "So am I." And we peeled off in laughter, and our husbands were like, what? What the heck just happened? Girls, we get each other. And the last one is the Stiletto palette. It had limited edition packaging, which I loved. Oops, let me pull that out. And this is just like beautiful taupes and a little bit of a purple, some browns. It's a beautiful, again, a cool tone neutral palette. I just love it. I'm just, again, it's a beautiful color story. Light to dark, with some shimmers, with some accents, but also enough mattes. It's a well thought out palette. I think part of the problem with some of the palette releases we see these days is they aren't very well thought out. There's not a full complement of shades and textures that you can build a full look. And I feel like, you know, these companies are sometimes just can't wait to throw something out there, and it is sometimes virtually unworkable. So I want to know if you were able to guess which palette I'm wearing on my eyes today. There's a lot of similarity between these palettes. I get that, but what I discovered from doing this tag is I really love a good neutral palette. Like, I really love a good neutral. That's what I learned from doing this tag is, yes, this girl loves neutrals. All right, so to reveal the palette that I used on my eyes, let me know if you were right. This one. It's probably one of my all-time favorite palettes. So I used, of course, this basic section, but I used just the mattes. I didn't use the shiny one under my brow bone. And I used this cool tone gray on my lid, and I blended it up into my crease a little bit. I kind of kept the look pretty simple. But honestly, I just wanted to showcase how this palette, while it looks super colorful, can really do a beautiful neutral eye as well, and one that I would absolutely wear to work. So I publish videos every Saturday morning. I'll include a link to last week's video right up here in case you missed it. And then on this side, I'm going to let YouTube's algorithm suggest one of my videos that it thinks you will enjoy. I'll see you real soon. Bye!